Good afternoon. Welcome to Cafecito. I'm Valerie Zolezzi-Wyndham, and it is such a pleasure to be here for my first show of the year and to have the opportunity to share the stage with Ileana Rojas, my dear friend. How are you?
I am fine and freezing for those of us I don't know from where the cold is coming from, but oh my God, is it cold today? But it's warm, it's getting warmed up by being with you and by being with all of our wonderful, wonderful guests here today that are watching, and hopefully our guest will join shortly as well.
So, Ileana, maybe I can start by asking you one of the questions I'm planning to ask our guests. So, today we are going to talk about leadership and wellness. And so I'd love to hear from you what the role that you think wellness plays in both in your leadership and in the leadership of others.
I think that's a great question. And I think it's really important, especially as we start the year, right? Because in the past, I think leadership was just at least in my mindset, as something that we did in the workplace, and it was about achieving results. It was about getting things done. It was about whatever, your role was in the organization that you were in. And at the most, it was about encouraging and inspiring the people around us to accomplish whatever it is that we were aiming to accomplish. But wellness, definitely nowhere near in the priorities of the day, or in the definition of leadership, or in the definition of any type of important competence or skill that you needed to be a good leader. Wellness was something that, at least in my mind, I think we would think about on your personal life, maybe on the weekend, right? So I'm just so excited to hear about leadership and wellness today, because I see that now our guest is joining in the back, and hear those thoughts, because wellness definitely not in my vocabulary until recently, where I think it's so important, especially as we start the year, to keep it front and center and make space for it as part of being good leaders in whatever space that we're in. So thank you for taking the time and
Wonderful.
the role and asking the question.
You're welcome, Ileana. And I'm gonna invite Clara to the stage. But before I do that, I just want to say I'm glad that you are prioritizing wellness now, and because I do think it sustains us and it sustains our teams. So I'm glad that you're doing that for yourself. And I am going to welcome our guest, Clara Angelina Diaz, to the stage. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I'll say goodbye, by the way.
Bye, Ileana. Thank you for joining us. So yes, welcome, Clara. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Are you able to see me? I'm having a little bit of tech issues, but here I am. Yes. Hi, Valerie.
I see you. Yes, I see you. I see you.
Ileana. It's good to see you all. It's great to be with the United Latinas. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Well, I would love to, our guests, some of our guests might know you and others may not. So I would love for you to take a minute or two to share a little bit about yourself. And so I want you to share something, what you do, but something that brings you joy and something that you do to take care of yourself.
Oh, yes. Well, I know a lot of the United Latinas, the amazing ladies here, but I am Clara Angelina Diaz-Anderson, and by day I teach leadership, specifically authentic leadership and coaching at Harvard University. I have my own company, Clarifying Coaching and Consulting, and we do leadership development around the world. Something that brings me joy and I can also use to take care of myself is dancing. So I just got back from Zumba. I was one of those people at the 10 a.m. Zumba class with senior citizens, Zumba Gold.
I love
And
it.
I love it because I get to dance at my own pace, and it's joyful. It's the teacher is Latina, so it's merengue, it's salsa, and I also get to exercise. So a 2 for 1 there.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you got to do that. I have Zumba maybe a few times in my life, but I'm glad that you do that with joy and that you do it with your senior citizens. That's great.
Yes, I love hanging out with the seniors.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited to talk to you about the intersection of leadership and wellness. And yes, WIPA. And I would love to start with a really important question so that our audience is clear on what we're talking about. And so I would like you to define what good leadership means for you. And then we'll
Oh
talk
yeah.
about
Oh yes, good leadership. There is a quote that I always use when defining leadership is Sheryl Sandberg's, and she says that, leadership is making others better because of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. Right? So we think about that, like how our presence can make others better, right? Or make situations better, make um, impact and influence people so much that they want to put their life force towards our shared vision. And in order for us to do that, you think about someone who is not well, right? I'm jumping to the wellness piece, but just to think about if we are going to have someone in a room or us be the person, right, that is intending on making things better, on moving things forward, right? The amount of energy that it takes to do that well, right? Where do we draw that energy from? And I think that that's where my work, like where I focus on, is on helping people to really figure out what is that source, right? From where you're going to pull from where you're going to stand in order to be an integral, heart-centered, humble, effective leader.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I hear a lot of words of wisdom in what you're sharing. But I think one is that we have to be well, right, to be able to inspire others to join us in advancing our mission, right?
Well, Valerie, I don't want to say we have to be well, right? Because when people are like, well, but I'm not well in all areas, right? Well, we got to lean towards, being well.
And maybe I appreciate the clarification. And I think we have to want to work at figuring out how we achieve it, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm very glad that you jumped ahead, and that you corrected me, right? Because I think that correction is important, right? We aren't always well, and sometimes even when we want to be well, right, we can be in a place where in a moment we're not. How do you help leaders sort of manage that in the moment and then to shift that, right? Because it can stay with us or we can shift it.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to say the word, it's a buzzword that's going around, is awareness. Right. So what does that mean for when we say, oh, like we have to have self-awareness? In the most simple terms, it means like you're about to go into a meeting and you are aware of how you feel. You're scanning, right? How am I feeling? How am I doing? I always use this a joke like, did you have a big bagel? Did the person, because sometimes it's indigestion, right? That has you sometimes like you're not in the best space, or you could be in the best space. So just being aware, right? Start developing self-awareness. I work with a tool called positive intelligence a lot that helps people like really look at like what are the things that keep them from shining, from thriving, are our saboteurs. And I send leaders off to really work on that self-awareness, right? What are the thoughts? What are the habits? What are the things that are keeping me, first and foremost, me, myself, my person, from being well? And how does that then affect the way that I interact with others? That's number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you do it, Valerie? Because I know you work with leaders as well.
I mean, I think gaining awareness of ourself and our reactions is really important, and figuring out what tools we can use to regulate ourselves, right? So, I think, there is work that I do to prepare myself for that meeting, right? So that I can bring who I want to be in that meeting, right? Who's going to be sort of my excellent self in that space.
Yes.
And sometimes that's harder than in other moments, right? Depending on what's happened to me. And so if I'm not as well as I want to be, or maybe wish I was,
Yeah.
awareness about it, and then having some mechanisms to help you manage that, right? And still do the best that you can.
Yep.
Or depending on the space that you've created, giving yourself permission to, and I get that this isn't always possible depending what space you're in, but, imagine the beauty of being in an inclusive workplace where you actually had created permission to be able to say, I'm not my best today, and I still want to present, and, give me some grace. So I think there's the work of the self, and then if we're in a good work environment, maybe there's also the group work or the teamwork that gives us the grace to show up however we are that day, right? So those are, I think, for leaders, it's really important to manage the self, and then also for them to think about how they create an environment, right, where we can be our best, but if for some reason we're not, that it's not the end of us, right?
Yeah, yeah, that makes me think about, Valerie, like in the work that I do, and I say yes, leadership development is the route, but creating communities of care and cultures of care is the goal. And like when you talk about, wow, imagine like working in an environment where like you can say, I don't feel my best today, and other people say, hey, it's cool because I got you.
Right.
Like, oh, if you forget that thing, I got you. It's okay. My goodness, right? Like I can even see the smile on your face when I say that. Like, imagine.
Right.
Yeah, but some things like we can talk about are some things that leaders can do, like when you're not feeling well. And I like to kind of bring this back to what would make you, so a question here, what would make you come back to center? Right? In any situation, you had a bad conversation, you ate a bad bagel, the kids didn't sleep last night, and you still have that 9 a.m. meeting that you got to show up and glow. What are the things that can bring you back to center? And so we know where those things are, but some of the things, I'll share that as a reminder, right, for folks are breath work, just remembering to breathe. In and out of your nose, ideally. And if you can put your hands in different parts of your body and just breathe 3 times into that space. And remember, like, you just don't breathe to the front of the body. You also have to breathe to the back and breathe to the side. Doing that a couple of times, right? And like touching yourself, huge, like quick way to bring you back to center. Valerie,
I am losing
myself
you a little.
frozen on the screen. Am I frozen?
You are frozen, yes, but we can still hear you. I think
Okay.
so you feel free to continue. I heard you say we should breathe.
Okay. Right, breathe in. Go ahead, Valerie.
Yep. Sorry, you came in and out. I'm having trouble hearing you. I wonder if you go off camera, if that might help. And to our guests who are listening, while we sort out Clara's connectivity, I encourage you to take 3 deep breaths. I did that as Clara was talking. And it really is such a powerful, beautiful thing that can really soothe you. Something that I also do is to imagine a place that I love. Right? If I am in that moment of stress and I need to ground myself, right? I close my eyes for a minute, or actually, you can see the red painting behind me. I look into that painting, and I think of a place that I love, and that gives me the serenity to regroup so that I can, do what it is that I need to do. Ileana, you're back. What do you do? Do you breathe or do you imagine?
I breathe. Well, I'm starting to breathe. I have to say, I didn't do it before, but I this year, amongst the things that I'm doing is the 7-minute breathing break, which I've now heard in a lot of different places that it really like brings that moment of focus and just that re-energy. So I'm gonna start doing that a little bit more often. So I loved hearing everything that Clara has been saying, because I think it's something critically important for us to stay focused and to stay energized throughout the day.
I love it. Thank you, Ileana. And I'm going to remind you to breathe when I see you
Yes.
out of this room, because you and I see each other, and I'll make that reminder. And I hope you'll see it as a gift. Welcome back,
Yes.
Clara. Welcome back.
Oh, here we are. It's okay.
You're
So I
back.
think the last thing I mentioned was the breath work.
Yep.
And the other piece that I want to introduce here, and I know there's a lot of us here that are already familiar with kind of in the coaching world, the wheel of life. But having us think about like, what are the different areas of my life that need tending to, right? That need work, because sometimes you're not well and you're showing up in a certain way because maybe there's something off with your relationships or your finances or your physical environment, or maybe you're not having enough fun. But to have awareness of the different areas of your life, I think is key to good leadership and to wellness-centered leadership, where you allow yourself to be well, and therefore you then give permission for the people around you, right, to go after wellness, and then and ideally create a space, right, that celebrates that.
Yes. No, I think that's beautiful. And I did, when you first started talking about the breathing, it reminded me to breathe. And I feel, right, I feel tranquility when I stop and take a breath. It's really, really powerful. I really love what you're saying about the importance of modeling wellness for your team. And I think sometimes, as somebody who has a team, I can, the instinct to sort of keep working hard so that I can get all the things done that they need is, it is strong in me, that instinct. And reminding myself that when I do that and I don't rest, I'm not modeling the kinds of behaviors that will actually sustain all of us as a team. And so that modeling is a really important leadership practice, and maybe not one traditionally understood as strong leadership, but takes courage and is really, really important.
Absolutely. I mean, we can go so deep, Valerie, with this, because as Latinas, right, we are, I always like to bring leadership back to the home. So I myself, right, I was trained to, like, you get home from work and you throw your stuff down, and like I have the kids are running around. I have 2 little kids at home. I have a 3 and an 8-year-old, and then I'm like cooking, and I look like an octopus. Right? And then I had to tell myself, like, wait a second, what kind of example my giving my children here when I don't take a moment to pause,
Yep.
to breathe, and to really think about like how do I want my evening to go? And I'm not talking about sitting down for like 20 minutes. This is like literally like a 5-second reflection. I am like, who do I want to be? And that gives me then like the opportunity to turn my music on, right?
Yep.
To make sure that, like the coats are off and the shoes are put in the right place, and that I have the best possible mindset, to go cook this dinner. It's the same thing to go have this board meeting.
Yep.
The best possible mindset so that I can enjoy. Gosh, let's talk about enjoying the work.
Yes. Yes. I
Right.
love it. I love it. I think for those of us who feel like wellness is too much time and that we don't have it, I think what's really important about what you just said is that these micro moments or these micro actions that we can take throughout the day are so, so powerful, right? You don't have to go to the gym for 2 hours or even an hour, right? We can do these little things that can have a really big impact on us and allow us to be present in the way that we want to be present, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
And
love
it's a simple question that I want to leave people with too is every day you ask yourself, what have I done today to care for myself
it.
and the people that I love?
Mm.
But don't skip yourself though. Like, right. So it's like 2 questions. What
Yes.
have I done to take care of myself?
Mhm.
What have I done to take care of the people that I love? Like, what have I done to connect, right, to the people that matter in my life? And then like another one is like, what have I done to make sure that the people in my life connect to each other?
Mm.
Community building,
Mm. Yes.
right? And then the other level to this is around the kinds of conversations that we're willing to have, right? Coaching conversations more than anything. Like we want to be developing people. We want to like not be always telling people what to do. Like we want to have as much as we can transformational conversations that are open to mutual growth. But sometimes we have to have difficult conversations, and that's okay. Because if you've done all that other work, right, the care for self, you're caring for other people. When it's time to have difficult conversations, you have enough trust already deposited so that you don't have to avoid having difficult conversations. And like how many times like the reason why teams are not well or we are not well or the project is not going well is because we're avoiding perhaps some kind of conversation or decision that we need to make. But maybe we're doing that because we don't have the capacity, we don't have the mental, emotional capacity, spiritual capacity to do it. So when I talk about wellness, Valerie, I developed a model that kind of takes those things into consideration. Did I care for myself and others? Right? Do I have the right people in place? And am I building a connection with those individuals? And like in the individuals that serve me, do they talk to each other? Right? And like what kind of conversations, how am I interacting with them? Right? And like looking at that over and over again. Which is part of the reason why the work that I do, I went from like work, being willing to work with folks, like coaching them for 3 months to then saying like, what would it look like if I worked with a leader for a full year? And not just myself, but like, myself and my team and other coaches, and really supported them right on that conscious, individual level to the macro, and like really supporting them in the impact that they want to have. um, it's like I think I offer the service of which is what I wish I had 10 years
Mm.
ago.
Yeah. Well, and I know that you're, and we're getting close to wrapping up. I know that you have a new program that you're offering that is a year-long program, and I encourage people to take a look at it and check it out. I mean, one of the reasons why I think that this idea of working with somebody for a year is really powerful and it's something that we do at Promoting Good as well. You know, if we think about what it takes to build the change in ourselves and then to build the change in our teams, to actually create sustainable transformational change, you know, that doesn't happen in 3 months. The awareness happens in 3 months, right? And then you have to start practicing, and then you're gonna, you know, you're gonna try, and you're gonna have some successes and have some things that don't go as well, and keep practicing. And so I love that idea of being able to provide, and others being able to receive support for a long enough period of time that hopefully people can really sustain that change over time and see the results. Because I think sometimes, and we'll sort of close with this question, you know, in a shorter intervention, I think one of the challenges of being a coach in a shorter intervention, right, is are you able to help your client achieve the change that they want and that you want them to have, and how do you handle that challenge? And maybe the solution is this program that's longer. So I'm curious, how do you help somebody sort of shift that commitment to growth from that short term to the long term, and help them see the value?
Yeah, that's a great question, Valerie, because you know, when we look at like theory of change, right, and stages of change, we know that, like, yeah, we make some progress, and then whoop, we revert back. And even that period of reverting is good. It's reflection time, is really giving you time to like really sit right in the change. Change takes time. Change is hard, and it's a noble thing to want to change anything. And so when I work when I have worked with folks for a shorter period of time, I think what it has done is really like set the stage for the development and the change that's going to come after. I try to go for like little wins as soon as possible, so that you know you start to develop that that connection, you know, to want to succeed. And so we can achieve some things.
Yes.
But I think more of what happens is we start uncovering, and then that leads into people either renewing for 3 months over and over again, or you know, wanting to read a book, or wanting to have a career change, or like wanting to make another major change, because now you're a different person, because you realize different things about yourself and about your abilities. And so it's really those shorter bursts are really about laying the foundation, but also allowing people to see their power as soon as possible. That's my approach.
Yeah, I love it. It's so important for us to see our own power and help other people see theirs, and to celebrate successes. And and you're absolutely right to celebrate them early and often. And I think what I'll close with is, I loved what you said about, you know, that every time we grow, we are a new person, and then we can transform into an even greater person, right? An even greater self. And what a beautiful thing that is, that evolution that happens over time. I'm so grateful that you were able to join me, Clara. I hope folks will find you on all of the platforms. So before I send us out, do you want to share how people can find you?
Sure. Yeah, you can. So my website is Clarafying. So CLARAFYING. I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, LinkedIn and Instagram mostly. But you can go on clarifying.com, and you can take a look at this 1-year mentorship program. We still have a couple of slots left. That includes a beautiful retreat to Cartagena, Colombia. My books, my courses, come and take my Harvard courses. I'd love to have you there. Clarafying.com.
Thank you so much, Clara. I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the past few months, and I know we're going to talk a lot more over the next few months about wellness. So great to spend some time with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you.